Hello, my dears. Tell me, are you familiar with that feeling when time flies by so unnoticed? It seems like only yesterday we were young, making plans, raising children, and today our grandchildren come to visit, and we look back on the years we've lived with a kind of new, special wisdom. But along with this wisdom, sometimes comes a touch of sadness, doesn't it? Thoughts about what we could have done differently, said differently, lived certain moments more vividly. This is perfectly natural. But what if I told you that we have a unique opportunity to look ahead, to hear what people most often regret on the very threshold of eternity, and to use this knowledge to make our lives today, precisely today, fuller, more conscious, and happier? Today we won't talk about illness or passing away, no. We will talk about life, about how to live it, so that at the end of the road, our hearts are filled not with regrets, but with warmth and light. I want to share with you 6 short but incredibly meaningful phrases, words that people often utter in their final days and hours. This isn't meant to frighten or sadden you, God forbid. It's so that you and I, while we still have the time and strength, can change something, fix something, add more color to the palette of our lives. These lessons are like precious pearls of wisdom, gathered for us by those who have already walked this path. And the most important thing, applying them is not difficult at all. Let's figure out together what these words are and how they can help us right now, today. I promise, this will be a very warm and useful conversation. Stay with me until the end, okay? So, the first phrase we'll explore sounds something like this. Oh, if only I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. You know, this is one of the most common regrets. How many times have we done something, not because our heart desired it, but because it's necessary? What will people say? My parents wanted it. We chose the wrong profession, lived in the wrong city, stayed silent when we wanted to scream, or smiled when our hearts were heavy. I remember the story of Eleanor. She was in her late 60s when we met. All her life, she had worked as an accountant in a small firm. Neat, responsible, always submitted reports on time. But there was a quiet sadness living in her eyes. One day, she confessed to me that since childhood, she had dreamed of painting. Not just for herself, but truly, painting with oils, participating in exhibitions. But her parents, practical people, said, Ellie, artists starve. Accounting. Now that's reliable. And she obeyed. She abandoned her paints, hid her easel in the attic, and dutifully entered numbers in ledgers. Years passed, she got married, had children, then grandchildren came along. She loved her family, of course, but she felt as if she wasn't living her own life, like wearing someone else's coat. Well made, perhaps, but uncomfortable. Inside her sat that unrecognized artist, quietly whispering, remember the smell of turpentine and the light falling on the canvas. These memories pained her, and she tried to push them away. She thought it was too late to change anything, that her train had left the station. She feared the judgment of her children. Mom, don't you have anything better to do in retirement? The ridicule of acquaintances. This fear, like an invisible cage, kept her locked up for many years. But one day, on her 68th birthday, her granddaughter gave her a set of watercolors and a sketchbook. Grandma, you used to draw, didn't you? She asked simply. And something clicked in Eleanor. She retrieved that dusty easel from the attic, found her old brushes. Her hands trembled. It was scary. What if nothing came of it? What if she had forgotten everything? But she began. Tentatively at first, copying postcards, then more boldly, painting the flowers in her garden, portraits of the cat. And do you know what happened? With each brush stroke, it was as if she reclaimed a piece of her true self. Her eyes sparkled in a new way. That perpetual tiredness and grayness in her gaze disappeared. She enrolled in painting classes for seniors, found like-minded people. No, she didn't become a famous artist, but she became herself. She said that for the first time in many years, she felt alive, breathing deeply. Can you imagine what a gift that is, to rediscover yourself when it seems like everything is already behind you? Her life before had been like a black and white movie, and now it blossomed with all the colors of the rainbow. Why is it so important to live your life? Because when we go against our true nature, against our true desires, we expend a colossal amount of energy maintaining that facade. It's like trying to start a car with the handbrake on. The engine roars, gas is consumed, but but the car barely crawls. When we allow ourselves to be ourselves, to do what we love, energy begins to flow freely. We feel a surge of strength, joy, and meaning. So, what can we do right now? Ask yourself honestly, is there something you've always wanted to do but put off due to fear or someone else's opinion? Maybe learn to play the guitar, learn Italian, write your memoirs, or simply walk more often in the park alone, if that's what you desire. It doesn't matter how serious or frivolous this desire seems. It's your desire. Try taking one small step in that direction. Just one. Sign up for a trial lesson, buy a self-study guide, find an hour for yourself. You'll be surprised how much joy this small step towards your true self can bring. Don't wait for approval. Don't fear judgment. Your life is your unique masterpiece. Paint it with your own colors. When we talk about living your life, like how Eleanor rediscovered herself through painting, it often comes down to how we manage our most precious resource, time. And this leads us to the second, very common regret, often voiced by men but familiar to many women too. Why did I work so hard? Or I missed so much that was important. This is the regret about lost time that could have been spent with family, with friends, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying the moment, instead of chasing the next achievement or paycheck. I recall Arthur. He was around 70, a former top manager of a large company. He dedicated his entire adult life to his career, waking up at 5 a.m., endless meetings, business trips, working weekends. He was convinced he was doing everything right, providing for his family, building a future. His wife took care of the children, the home. He brought home the money. Seemingly an ideal picture. But when he retired, he found himself in a void. The children had grown up, had their own families, their own concerns. His relationship with them was polite, but not close. He didn't know what to talk about with them other than work or the weather. He had missed their first steps, school plays, graduation parties. He was always at an important meeting. His wife had gotten used to living her own life. She had her own interests, friends, and he sat in his big house, not knowing what to do with himself. All his thoughts, all his energy for decades, had been directed towards work, and now that it was gone, he felt lost and useless. He remembered his son asking him to go fishing, and he promised next weekend, which never came. How his daughter wanted to show him her drawing, and he brushed her off. Later, I'm busy. These memories stung him like bees. Work had been like a treadmill for him. He ran faster and faster but stayed in the same place, while real life passed him by. What helped Arthur? It was a long process. He started small, simply began coming into the kitchen when his wife was cooking dinner and talking to her. Not about work, but about how her day went, what interesting things she had read. It was awkward at first. They had both grown unaccustomed to such communication. Then he called his son and suggested they go fishing himself. His son was surprised, but agreed. On that fishing trip, they mostly sat in silence, but it was a comfortable silence that brought them closer than hundreds of formal conversations. Arthur started calling his daughter more often, asking about the grandchildren, visiting them not with expensive gifts, but simply to play, to read a fairy tale. He discovered simple joys, morning coffee on the porch, walks in the park, reading books he had put off for later. He realized that life isn't just about achievements and status, but also about the warmth of human connections, the quiet moments of happiness that we often overlook in the pursuit of the important. His life stopped resembling an endless profit and loss report and turned into a leisurely stroll through a picturesque garden. Why is it important to find a balance between work and life? Work provides us with a livelihood, self-realization, structure, but it shouldn't overshadow everything else. Relationships, health, experiences. This is capital that cannot be earned or bought. It can only be accumulated by investing your time and attention. Imagine your life is a garden. Work is one important plot, but if you only water that one, the other flowers, family, friends, hobbies, rest, will wilt. Yet, it's precisely these that give the garden its beauty and fragrance. What can we do today? Let's look at our schedule. Is there room for loved ones? For ourselves? Maybe it's worth occasionally declining overtime, or a not-so-important meeting to have dinner with family, call an old friend, go to the theater, or simply sit with a book. Try introducing sacred hours, time that belongs only to you and your loved ones, which no work can encroach upon. It could be Sunday evening, or a morning hour for a walk, or a lunch break spent away from the desk. Make it your rule. Remember, the most precious moments in life rarely happen in the office. They happen when we are near those we love. Let's cherish this time. And so we see how the pursuit of a career, like in Arthur's story, can distance us from our closest ones. But it's not just about physical absence. Often, even when we are physically present, we build invisible walls because we are afraid or don't know how to talk about what's in our hearts. This brings us to the third, very subtle and important regret. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Or, as it often sounds, why did I stay silent? I should have said. This is the regret about not confessing love, not asking for forgiveness, not saying thank you, not expressing hurt or anger in a timely and appropriate manner. We kept everything inside, afraid of appearing weak, vulnerable, fearing conflict or misunderstanding. I knew a wonderful woman, Margaret. She was over 70. She was a model of fortitude and self-control, or so she thought. Never complained, always kept up appearances, even when things were very difficult. She had endured many trials in life, and she had developed a habit, hiding her feelings deep inside. She considered it strength. She rarely told her sons she loved them. They know anyway. She never expressed her grievances to her husband. Why spoil the relationship? She didn't tell her friends about her anxieties. I don't want to burden others with my problems. She built a high wall around her heart, thinking it would protect her. But in reality, this wall isolated her. She felt lonely, misunderstood, and her loved ones, seeing her outward calm, didn't even guess what was going on in her soul. This led to misunderstandings, to cool relationships. Her life resembled a house with tightly shut windows and doors. It was warm inside, but no one could enter, and no fresh air could get in. The turning point came when Margaret had a serious heart attack. Lying in the hospital, she suddenly realized how fragile life is and how much she hadn't managed to say. The fear of losing the opportunity to express her feelings became stronger than the fear of being vulnerable. When her sons came to visit her, overcoming a lifelong habit, she took their hands and said, "My boys, I love you very much. Forgive me if I didn't always show it." They were stunned, but tears of joy and relief stood in their eyes. After her discharge, she began to change. She started telling her husband more often about both her love and what hurt her. She began sharing her worries with a friend. She discovered, to her surprise, that people didn't turn away from her, but on the contrary, grew closer, relationships warmed. She realized that vulnerability is not weakness, but a bridge to sincerity and closeness. Shedding her shell of restraint, she felt incredible relief, as if she had taken off a heavy backpack she had carried all her life. Why is it so important to express your feelings? Pent-up emotions don't disappear. They accumulate inside like steam in a kettle, and sooner or later, either explode in an inappropriate outburst of anger or begin to destroy us from within, leading to psychosomatic illnesses, depression, anxiety. When we allow ourselves to feel and express our emotions, both positive and negative, we release that energy. We become more honest with ourselves and others. It's like clearing a clogged pipe. Water can flow freely again. What can we do today? Let's try to be a little braver in expressing our feelings. Start small. Tell someone close, thank you for some little thing. Compliment a neighbor. If something upsets you in a conversation with a friend, try to gently but honestly express it using I statements. I felt hurt when you said, rather than accusations, you always hurt me. And most importantly, don't forget to say I love you to those you care about. Don't assume they already know. These words are like sunlight for a flower. They nourish relationships and warm the soul. Don't wait for a special occasion. The best occasion is today. Say the important words to those you love. It costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. The ability to talk about our feelings, as Margaret learned, heals our closest relationships. But our life is not woven only from family ties. There is another precious thread, friendship. And how often, alas, do we allow this thread to thin and break over time? This brings us to the fourth bitter regret. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends, or I should have called more often. Life scatters us to different cities and countries. New worries appear, family, work, and old bonds of friendship gradually weaken if they are not maintained. And then, looking back, we realize how much we miss those people with whom we shared common memories, youth, sincerity. I had an acquaintance, David. He was over 70. In his youth, he had a lively group of friends. University, hiking trips, first loves. They swore eternal friendship to each other. But then life took its course. David built a career, moved to another city. At first, they corresponded, then called each other on holidays. And then, contacts were lost, calls became rare, and eventually stopped altogether. David had a family, colleagues, new acquaintances, but he missed that old friendship, where you were understood without words, where you could be yourself. He felt this especially keenly when he retired and his wife passed away. He was left alone in a big city where he knew almost no one really closely. He often looked through old photographs and sighed, "Where are you now, guys? How did your lives turn out?" He felt like a lonely tree in a field that remembers the times when there was a dense forest around. It seemed too late to change anything, that his friends had forgotten him, that it would be awkward to call after so many years. But one day, his daughter, seeing her father's longing, helped him find one of his old friends on social media. David hesitated for a long time, but finally decided to write. The reply came almost immediately. His friend, Michael, was incredibly happy. It turned out that he too often remembered their group and regretted the lost connection. They called each other, talked for several hours, reminiscing about the past and sharing about the present. Then, with Michael's help, David found the contacts of several other friends. They organized a reunion, small at first, then larger. Can you imagine the joy, seeing each other after 40 years? Yes, they had changed outwardly, grayed, acquired wrinkles and ailments, but the same spark of youth burned in their eyes. The jokes were the same, and understanding arose instantly. This meeting breathed new life into David. He stopped feeling lonely. They began to call each other regularly, visit each other, support each other in difficult times. He realized that true friendship is like good wine. It only becomes more valuable with age, but it needs to be stored in the right conditions, meaning giving it attention. Why is it so important to maintain friendships? Friends are our chosen family. They are people who know us through different periods of life, accept us as we are, with whom you can laugh heartily and cry on their shoulder. Friendship is a powerful source of support, joy, and psychological comfort, especially in mature age when the social circle may shrink. It's like the roots of a tree. The deeper and more branched they are, the more stable the tree stands during a storm. What can we do now? Think about your old friends, those with whom it felt good and easy. Maybe there's someone you've been meaning to call but kept putting it off. Don't be afraid of seeming intrusive or awkward. Most likely, your friend will be just as happy to receive your call or message as you are. Use modern technology, phone, internet, social media, to find old acquaintances. Write a few lines, ask how they are doing, or just call. Even a short conversation can warm the soul and rekindle old warmth. Try organizing a reunion of classmates or university friends if possible. Don't wait for someone else to take the initiative. Be the glue that brings the old group together. Friendship is a two-way street. Take a step towards them, and perhaps you will rediscover an old friend. It's a priceless gift you can give both to yourself and to them. The joy of reuniting with friends, which David experienced, reminds us how important positive emotions are in our lives. And here we come to the fifth, perhaps most surprising revelation that comes to people on the threshold of eternity. It concerns not specific actions or people, but our inner attitude, our ability or inability to be happy. The phrase sounds like this: "I wish I had let myself be happier," or "Why did I worry so much about trivial things?" Many people only realize at the end of their journey that happiness was their own choice, not a matter of circumstances. They spent so much time worrying about the future, regretting the past, comparing themselves to others, that they simply didn't notice the small joys of the present moment. I remember Helen. She was nearly 80. She was a good, kind woman, but perpetually dissatisfied. Always found something to complain about. The weather was bad, the soup was too salty, the neighbors were noisy, the children didn't call often enough. She lived in constant anxiety. What if she got sick? What if the money ran out? What if something happened to the grandchildren? Even when something good happened, she couldn't fully rejoice in it, always expecting a catch. Her life was like a journey under a constant gray, drizzling rain, even when the sun shone. She simply didn't notice its rays because she was busy looking for clouds on the horizon. She thought that when her children were better settled, when the grandchildren grew up, when she finished the renovations, then she could relax and be happy. But that then never arrived. There was always a new reason for worry. What helped her change her outlook a little? It happened gradually. Her granddaughter, a very cheerful young woman, started spending more time with her and infecting her with her optimism. She taught Helen to notice small joys, a beautiful sunset, delicious tea, birds singing outside the window, a funny joke on TV. She gave her a gratitude journal and asked her to write down 3 things she was grateful for each evening. At first, Helen was skeptical. What's there to be grateful for? Everything's the same as usual. But then she got into it. She started noticing things she hadn't paid attention to before. A passerby's smile, a neighbor's help, the taste of fresh bread. She began to understand that happiness isn't some grand prize to be earned or waited for, but a mosaic of many small, pleasant moments that happen every day. She started grumbling less and smiling more. Of course, she didn't turn into a carefree child, but there was more light and warmth in her life. She realized that happiness is not a destination, but a way of traveling through life. Why is it so important to allow yourself to be happy? Because our perception determines our state. If we constantly focus on the negative, we attract it and feel unhappy. If, however, we learn to notice the good, be grateful for what we have, and rejoice in simple things, our mood improves, we feel more energetic, and even our health can improve. Happiness is a habit that can and should be cultivated. It's like a muscle. The more often we train it, by practicing gratitude, optimism, the ability to enjoy little things, the stronger it becomes. What can we do right now? Let's try today to find 3, no, even 5 small things that brought us joy, or for which we are grateful. Maybe it was the morning sunbeam, a tasty breakfast, a call from a friend, an interesting article, comfortable slippers. Write them down, or just note them mentally. Try doing this every day. You'll be surprised how much good there is in your life if you start noticing it. Allow yourself to smile for no reason. Listen to your favorite music. Treat yourself to something pleasant, even if it's small. Stop waiting for perfect conditions for happiness. Happiness is here and now, in every day, in every moment. You just need to open your heart to it. Shall we learn this together? Learning to find joy in little things, as Helen did with her gratitude journal, is largely about working on our inner world. But our happiness and peace of mind are inextricably linked to how we build relationships with others, how we treat their imperfections, and our own. And here we arrive at the final 6th lesson, which combines both forgiveness and kindness. The phrases vary. I should have forgiven, or I wish I had been kinder, I regret being so harsh. The essence is the same. It's regret over old grudges we carried for years, poisoning our own lives, about harsh words spoken in anger, about the unwillingness to understand and forgive, both others and ourselves. There was an elderly gentleman, George, nearly 80. He wasn't a bad person, but he had a difficult personality. Very proud, easily offended, with a sharp tongue. He hadn't spoken to his younger brother for many years because of some old property dispute. His relationship with his only daughter was strained because he constantly criticized her husband and lifestyle. He wore his grievances like medals, believing righteousness was on his side. But this righteousness made him very lonely and unhappy. Deep down, he suffered from the estrangement from his loved ones, but pride prevented him from admitting he was wrong or taking the first step towards reconciliation. His life was like a fortress with high walls and a lowered drawbridge. He was safe from enemies, but friends couldn't enter either. He had locked himself in this fortress of bitterness and resentment. What prompted him to change? As often happens, illness was the catalyst, not his own, but his brother's. When George learned that his brother was seriously ill, something inside him stirred. All the old grudges suddenly seemed so petty and insignificant compared to the possibility of losing his brother forever. He swallowed his pride and went to the hospital to see his brother. They were silent for a long time. Then George simply said, "Forgive me, brother." And his brother replied, "And you forgive me." At that moment, it felt as though a huge weight he had carried for decades fell from George's soul. After that, he found the strength to call his daughter and also ask for forgiveness for his harshness and criticism. He didn't become perfect overnight, but he began to learn to be softer, more tolerant, kinder. He understood that forgiveness is not weakness, but liberation, primarily for oneself. It's like taking off heavy shackles that hindered walking through life easily. He started smiling more often, taking an interest in others' affairs, saying warm words. And people were drawn to him. His fortress turned into a cozy home with open doors. Why is it important to forgive and be kinder? Resentment and anger destroy us from within, like rust corrodes metal. They spoil our mood, undermine our health, ruin relationships. Forgiveness, however, is an act of liberation. We forgive not to justify the offender, but to free ourselves from the burden of the past. Kindness is also medicine. When we do something good for others, even the smallest thing, we feel better ourselves. Kindness is contagious. It creates an atmosphere of warmth and light around us. It's like throwing a pebble into water. The ripples spread far and wide. What can we do today? Think if there is someone in your life you hold a grudge against. Maybe it's time to let it go. You don't necessarily have to go to that person and say, "I forgive you," if it's impossible or inappropriate. Sometimes it's enough to forgive them in your heart, for yourself. Let go of that pain so it no longer poisons your life. And also, let's try to do at least one small act of kindness today. Smile at the cashier in the store, hold the door for a neighbor, call a lonely acquaintance, give a compliment to a loved one. Practice kindness towards others, and just as importantly, towards yourself. Stop berating yourself for past mistakes. You did the best you could at that moment. Forgive yourself and move on with a lighter heart. After all, kindness and forgiveness are the keys to inner peace and harmony. So there they are, these 6 simple yet profound phrases, 6 lessons from those who have approached the very edge of life. Live your own life. Value loved ones more than work. Express your feelings. Cherish your friends. Allow yourself to be happy. And forgive and be kinder. These are not just words. They are beacons that can light our way and help us avoid the hidden reefs of regret. My dears, you have lived long, rich lives. You have vast experience and wisdom behind you that no money can buy. You have seen much. You know the value of both joys and sorrows. And you, more than anyone, deserve to live your remaining years. And may there be many more, God willing, in peace with yourselves, in harmony with those around you, with a sense of fullness and meaning in every day. Don't think it's too late to change something. It's never too late to become a little braver, a little kinder, a little happier. It's never too late to extend a hand of friendship or forgiveness. It's never too late to hear the voice of your heart and follow it. These lessons are not meant for self-reproach about the past, but to inspire a better future that begins right now, this very minute. Remember that you are the captain of your own ship, and only you decide which course to sail next. May your path ahead be bright, warm, and filled with love, joy, and peace in your soul. You deserve it. Believe in yourself and know you can do it.